Wow. Wow. I'm not. I, do I call this W world building or do I call this disgusting? Hori, which is it? Thank you to our Philo patrons, RedWolf4765, Midnight Gem Lord, and Sean. And another thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays and RedWolf4765. And another very big thank you to our $10 patron, Robbie Uchiha. And a very big thank you to our $25 patron, Alex Ice Rose. And another very big thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. Now, before I'm this breakdown / discussion and review of chapter 387. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because it's... Oh, we got a lot to talk about. Of My Hero Academia, the least favorite, leave your own in the chapter in the comments section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do a Patreon down below where you can support me for as little as $1 to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as little as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include the live reaction to this very chapter. Now, let's hop into chapter 387. What's up, guys? Pencil here, and here we are to chapter 387 of My Hero Academia, which is known as Congealed. And like, I'll admit, I've defended many a thing before from many a mangaka, but like, I've never, ever in my not many years, but like in my 2 years of reviewing My Hero Academia and my many years of reading the series, I've never had to defend something like this. This is like, this went from, oh yeah, I never really had to defend anything Hori does, to, uh-oh, he did the whole mutant quirk thingy, that's not good, I'm not gonna be able to defend that, to this. Like, we leaped. We leaped. Hori took notes from Nakaba or something. Like, in terms of things, I just can't defend. What the heck? Oh, we got a lot to talk about. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. So we open up and we find out that Himura blood runs thick. The young man talking is Paranoble Liberation Front Lieutenant Getten, quirk ice manipulation. And one, you know what, let me focus on the cool thing before I get into the Hori why things. Let me talk about the cool things. First things first, it's great to see Getten again. You know, the last time we realistically saw him, was it even in the first war? I generally don't remember. I literally just reread the first war like 5 days ago, but I don't even remember if he showed up there. I think bro got locked up, they won't let him out, and like the MVA arc. Like, I think way back when he first fought Dabi, who may or may not be his cousin. But regardless, that was way back when. That was then. So seeing Getten again, neat. Once again, Hori is taking a whole bunch of time to bring back a whole bunch of characters, whether they be fan favorites, whether they be nobodies, whether they be characters that no one cares about. He's bringing them all back. And, you know, I agree. People brought up a fantastic point. Hey, that guy with pencil, don't be a hypocrite. You always say you want to see side characters, so this is when you're seeing side characters. It doesn't matter if it seems like a really inopportune time in the narrative to see it. They're here. Be happy. You know what? I'll be happy. I don't want to be a hypocrite flat out. I'm happy we're going to see side characters. I'm happy we're going to see old characters. The fact they don't do much, fine. Makes sense. Once again, we are in Final War territory. The fact that they're appearing at all is more than impressive enough. I'm shocked Hori remembered half the characters he's brought back, or even introduced characters that he's introduced in some of these chapters, like the reporters, the business students, all that. Like, shout outs to bro. That takes a whole lot of memory banks that I just don't have. I would forget characters left and right if my series was a third as long as Hori's was. But with that being the case, we do get to see that Getten is talking about something. See, like, can I say Sweet Home Alabama? But like, okay, because it's not exactly clear. But let me what's Getten's voice? Hold on. Himura blood runs thick. In the old days, there was a Himura village chief whose position enabled him to establish multiple branch families. Even the land reform had no effect on the family's pride and wealth. So, Getten is essentially giving his family's backstory. He is, in fact, a Himura. This was something that was theorized a lot way back when, like, back in time, back to reality type beat, like, forever ago, when Getten was first introduced. Like, whoa, ice manipulation quirk of that scale? White hair? this man, he must be related to Rey in one way, shape, or form. It just seems too coincidental. And like, Hori's world is very big, but it's not that big. Like, come on now. An ice manipulation quirk that's equal to the skill of Dabi's fire manipulation quirk. This doesn't seem like it's all too subtle. So this finally confirms that Getten is in fact one of, not necessarily the Todoroki family, but of the Himura family, which is tied directly into the Todoroki family. Remember, Endeavor did kind of like, I was gonna sound wet. He did kind of, let's say, how can I say this without sounding like absolutely horrid? He kind of bought Rey. Okay, that sounds wrong. That sounds so wrong. Let's say he did not get Rey by conventional means. It had a little bit of something to do with the fat stacks he had in his wallet. Let's go with that. And with that being the case, we do get to see that Himura continues. But the rise of meta abilities marked the start of their decline and led to their eventual downfall. They despised the thought of diluting their bloodline. Now, hold on there. You may think, hey, well, wait a second. I've heard phrasing like that before, and you definitely have. If you've taken a history class, you've heard of many royal or high-ranking families that don't like to dilute the bloodline. But to stay away from human history, let's go to another very famous series, Ben 10. Remember the Highbreed? Remember what their name is? Split the two words that make up the Highbreed's name. High breed. That means they only breed with the high. They only keep it in the family in order to make sure. And what was their big issue? Their fat issue that Asmith somehow got to talk about openly on live kids television? Yeah, the fact that their gene pool was dying out because they were so poorly diversified that their genetics were failing. So essentially, Hori is introducing us to that exact same concept, except I'm not sure. I'm sorry. This is still so, I just never, go back to when I first started reviewing My Hero Academia. Because the first chapter I did was Dabi's reveal. I was reading My Hero Academia for years up to that point, but I had to start reviewing it then. It was like, whoa, okay, we're popping off. And I was loving the work up to that point. So, if you were to go back to me then and be like, hey, Pencil, 100 chapters down the line, you won't be talking about how cool it is that Dabi's a Todoroki and everyone was right. You'll be talking about how Dabi is, and all the kids, I mean, technically they aren't. Rey is. The kids technically aren't, INBERED. The kids aren't, because they have biodiversified by being Endeavor's kids. But it doesn't help that their mama's she kept it in the family. So, that is so, I get it. This is actually a pretty common part of early humanity, because humans weren't able to biodiversify that much because there weren't that many humans and communication wasn't that well established. So we only really started getting really, really unique in terms of our biogenetic diversity in recent years. I'd say, because look at how many humans are being produced nowadays, and usually not of the same family line. So this is definitely something that still does occasionally happen, and there are definitely people who still do believe in this, but nowadays it isn't all too common, luckily enough. And we know that usually when stuff like this happens, aka the pharaohs of Egypt, they end up coming out a little bit janky, to say the very least, a little bit janky. And here's the thing, right? I guess I should get to it when Getten blatantly lays it out there. So we see that Compress is talking about, obsession with pedigree plus contempt for heteromorphs. I wonder what Spinner would say. I wonder what Spinner would say too. Spinner can't say anything anymore because he's literally just a mindless beast. Because that's how Hori decided to handle the mutant plotline. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not saying Hori's been fumbling, but he hasn't exactly been not fumbling. If you know what I'm saying. He hasn't done anything atrocious that's got me okay, Hori, I have a wonderful little cell with you. We're going to take you straight to a little man we like to call Nakaba Suzuki. You can both sit in that jail cell. Like, we haven't gotten that far, but like, like, why? I mean, like, Spinner's one of my favorite characters from the League of Villains. If not now, well, no, not anymore. Not after the fall off, no, not anymore. But with that being the case, he was one of my favorites. And seeing him reduced to nothing but a mindless beast in a plot line that's really, really poorly executed and very tone deaf by Hori, that's not good. It's not good. Not good. And this, like, this chapter feels unnecessary. Or no, the information given in this chapter in the first half seems unnecessary. You didn't have to tell me this. All you had to tell me was that Getten and Rei were related, and I wouldn't have batted an eye. No, Hori went out of his way to include this. And this is where, like, once again, let me get to. I'm sorry. I'm just so bewildered. I guess bewildered is the best term for this. I am unbelievably bewildered. But let's see. We see that Getten talks about, as a result, they kept marriages inside the family between members of different branches. All right, I can fully talk about it now. Why? Like, why introduce? I mean, like, well, here. Let me tackle it from the defensible side first. Let me just throw my Hori defense hat on, because I don't throw it on all too often. It's a little bit dusty in the corner because I rarely be defending Hori nowadays. But like, let me throw the hat on. Let me wipe the dust off the cap a little bit. Let me see. Hypothetically, this is just more W world building. It would make sense that things like this would happen in high and prestigious families. Heck, other manga have done it before. I don't remember because the Hyuga clan is pretty irrelevant in Naruto, but I think they have something like this. But I know they have a main family and a branch family. I'm not sure if there was like exactly like coagulation or like in like Alabama. Like, I'm not sure if there's Alabama in the Uchiha clan or the Hyuga clan, but I think it's kind of like low-key implied. They never explicitly say it though. I don't think they ever hint at it like they do here. But the reason everybody's last name is Uchiha, and the reason everyone's last name in the Hyuga clan and the Uchiha clan, and Sakura is like the first one to like marry into it that we see on screen, it's probably because they were knocking boots inside the same home. So like that is entirely likely. And you don't hear really anyone talk about that with Naruto. But like it's the fact that it's brought up here. Like of all the but once again, let me focus on, I got the cap on. I still got the cap on. Let me keep the cap on. Let me talk a little bit longer. It does make sense that this would happen, especially in the way that quirks were treated in human society. Like the fact that people were starting to mutate, the fact that people were starting to be born like monsters, it seemed entirely random, and all of that was starting to like appear here, there, and everywhere. Old traditional families probably would view, oh, the lower class, the filth, the rabble, the disgusting creatures. We cannot let our bloodline be deluded by such nasty things. You marry your cousin. Like, I'm not sure, can I say that? I'm not even sure if I can say that. We'll risk the biscuit for that one. But like, legitimately, that, like, it makes sense within the context of the world that Hori is built. If regular people are reacting to heteromorphs in the way that it's been implied by Hori, even if I don't like how he handled the mutant plotline, yeah, it does kind of make sense that people would not react all too kindly, even in our world. People don't react to humans with slightly, this is gonna sound so dark. People don't react to humans with slightly different appearances than each other. Not to talk of a human with a fish for a head. So it would make sense to me that, especially in who knows how old this coagulation, well then again, no, because quirks are a recent phenomena. So they were keeping it in the family for a while. So I'm not sure about that. But even still, it would make sense that they would want to like keep it close, keep it hung together. And if you have branch families, I guess, and you have main family members, I guess you can do that. But still, like, it doesn't make sense within the modern day. Like, notably, it didn't make sense, well, because the kids started being, you know, a little bit misshapen. It didn't make sense thousands of years ago when they were first doing it in like high tier royal families, like the Egyptian pharaohs, I believe some kings of England and stuff like that. Like, there were people back then who did similar things to this. But in the modern day, like, notably, quirks manifested. Hold on, let me double check. When did quirks manifest? I don't think there's a clear date, but we know All for One is around 100 years old. And let's be generous and say that quirks started to manifest around 50 years before that. 150 years ago, I think people knew that, you know, knocking boots within the same roof was not good. Like, I think people knew that at that point. So why would a high prestigious royal family, presumably with the best resources, not know that? And like, here's the thing, the first quirk we know is not before like any modern technology. The first quirk ever, the baby that was born with the ability to radiate light, yeah, that was like in a modern hospital. And we already know My Hero Academia's technology is not much more advanced than ours, but still more advanced than ours. So they're even a couple decades in the future compared to where we are. They have like hologram tech and stuff like that. And obviously all the different suits and hero gear. So they're a couple like leaps into the future. So why would a royal family, presumably with the best resources, resort to something that is known to fail? Like, it's never been established as a good thing, like, ever. I mean, I don't know. I get ancient humans doing it due to a lack of other ancient humans. I get idiots. I get idiotic members of ancient royal families who also did this because they just didn't know any better. But in the modern day, how do you not know that, you know, knocking boots within the same roof is not a good idea, can lead to your kids not being proper kids? Like, how do you know? How do you not know that? That seems so strange. And I guess, once again, it can just be chalked up to the pride and arrogance and all that. But let me level with you real quick. I'm taking the defense cap off. This is weird. This is weird, and it adds nothing to the narrative. Legitimately nothing. Especially considering the fact that you had no reason to introduce this, because it's not like it was implied with any of the kids. Like, it'd be one thing if one of Endeavor's kids was born off, but they weren't. There's no reason to add this. All you need to do was, once again, to say that Geten and Ray are related, because two people with big, strong ice quirk, bada bing, bada boom. Makes sense. That's all you had to do. You did not have to introduce knocking boots under the same roof. You did not have to bring Alabama into the Discord call. Hori, I don't know why you did this. It seems like I'm not one for shock value, or like, I'm not one to accuse mangaka of doing things surely for shock value, but like, there's no other reason to do this. Because there's nothing that implied it. Like, you can definitely argue that maybe it was implied by the fact that Ray did have to sort of be sold off, like, to Endeavor. Like, that is a thing that you could hypothetically imply. That could just imply a deteriorating, like, royal family or something like that. That doesn't have to imply knocking boots under the same roof. That never had to imply that. So Hori had to think consciously that, you know what, I want to make the entire Todoroki family and that whole section of the plot even weirder by making them knock under the boots in the same roof children. I need to do that. Why? Like, I don't get it. Notably, I'm a guy who believes that almost everything, you can have stuff in your narrative that's just there to be there because you want it in there. Because, you know, you're making your own narrative. There's no, like, absolute set guideline of rules to follow. Especially if you're making manga or anything like that. Any art form, there are no real hard set rules, in my opinion. You can do whatever you want for the most part. I discourage certain things, but once again, I'm not even a full-time, like, real art creator. I record YouTube videos and draw some stuff. That's not the same. Me and Hori are not the same. So he can make whatever choices he wants within his manga. But, like, this is a weird one. Like, how did this get past the editors? Like, of all the things, like, already, there's some things that I question how'd that get past the editors. But, like, how did Hori bring this up? Like, because we know Hori doesn't work alone. He had to run this by people. And say, yeah, I want to make the Todoroki family knock boots into the same roof. I want to make that whole plot line even weirder. And, like, no one asked him why. Like, what, like, this feels like an idea that should have been cut out. Like, there are many different ideas that I have within my own rewrites or my own scripts or my own what ifs that I always, like, I double take and I'm like, you know what? We can remove that plot line. Like, that's not needed. Or, like, that's an extra tidbit of information that I don't really need to cover or worry about. Like, that's not helping at all. If anything, it just makes it weird. And, like, this is something that does not help at all. It only makes it weird. And the thing is, we'll get to it, but Hori tries to flip this positively later in the closing line of the chapter when he says Himura blood runs thick. Which we know now is not the context of, oh, the family deeply cares for each other, which would be one fine way to interpret it. No, we know Himura blood runs thick because it's literally all Himura blood, which is kind of nasty. Not kind of, very nasty. I'm sorry, I'm not into it. And once again, I've tried not to judge people. I know I grew up in a very different environment from a lot of people. I even see in my other review series, when I complain about certain things that are just weird in my culture, Then other people are like, dude, you gotta respect other cultures. And I do. Sometimes. For the most part. I'm going to rampantly disagree with you no matter what. Like, these are my reviews. I'm going to tell you how I feel. And this just seems strange. It seems like this adds nothing to the narrative. No idea why Hori would throw it in there, except to make things weird. And he succeeded. If that was if that was the narrative or authorial intent behind this, he succeeded. I spent 20 minutes talking about how weird this is. I'm on the second page. I'm on the second page. And this is how strange that is. Because it caught me so off guard. Like, once again, this came out of left field. This was not needed. Not needed at all. We have so many other things going on right now. The fact that the Himura family is, you know, knocking boots under the same roof, that did not need to be added to the narrative. That just is not something that needed to be discussed or talked about or added in this current day and age. I'm sorry. It just isn't. It just isn't. I see no real defense for this other than like hypothetical W world building. If you guys have a defense for this outside of hypothetical W world building, or like can reinforce the hypothetical W world building argument, please let me know. Because sweet mother mercy, I want good reasoning behind this. I want good reasoning and like logic on why this makes the narrative better. Because I don't see it. However, we do get to see that even Mr. Compress is low-key disgusted. He's like, oh, ew, that's what you mean by blood running thick. And like, obviously he doesn't say it like that, but still, yeah, even he knows that, ew, you guys, oh, same roof? Like, you do realize we're in Japan, right? We are not in the United States. This is not Alabama. But regardless, we do get to see that Getten's like close from the outside world. The Himura clan is old and dwindled as time passed. The final nail in the coffin came when the main family began to sell itself off. When word got out, the remaining branch families... Oh, wait, now. When word of that got out, the remaining branch families scattered. I myself was one of them, and eventually Redestro recruited me. Generation after generation, meta abilities grow in strength and complexity. So, yeah, I mentioned it earlier, but Reo... Not Reo. Wrong series. We are not talking about Peak Lock. We are talking about My Hero Academia. So, Ray, once again, I mentioned it earlier. She was kind of purchased, which is so... I mean... W World. let me slide the defense cap back on real quick. W World building. I guess buying people. Not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea, but you know, whatever. Hori, once again, that's another reason why introduce that. If you already made it weird enough that Ray was literally purchased, like, I know, like, Hori tries to put a nice little spin on it. Oh, well, you see, he always brought me the flower I said I only liked once. And you see, he was actually a really nice guy before he was, you know, actually the worst person on the planet. All that, like, I know Hori tries to put a positive spin on it, but I'm sorry, I cannot get it out of my head. As much as I love Endeavor, once again, Endeavor's still my favorite My Hero Academia character, and it's not close. But as much as I love him, dude, buying a wife? Like, huh? Like, I get that. That actually is a thing in some cultures, I do believe. Like, heck, even some cultures where my family's in the general range of, like, yeah, that's a thing. Like, purchase your significant other. But I still don't find that palatable. Is that the word I'm looking for? I still don't find it palatable. I still don't think that's, normal or respectable in any way, shape, or form. Like, I don't know, maybe because Disney ruined me. Maybe I believe in like at least some semblance of true love too much, that the idea of literally purchasing your significant other is not something that aligns with my morals. But who knows, maybe I'm the weird one here. However, Getten does bring up the fact that, you know, with the fact that meta abilities are evolving and growing in strength and complexity, they intensify as different factors mix together. It wouldn't be surprising if someone had latent abilities that they weren't aware of. When people set aside their hearts and pursue that power, I wonder what kind of future it'll bring. So, essentially, this is the whole idea of quirk awakenings, secondary quirk awakenings, multi-quirk awakenings, all that. And no matter what, I will admit, because I've seen a lot of people, obviously the chapter dropped with its spoilers and all that, and people are like, yo, this is nonsense, this is pulling out of Hori's butt, like, none of this was established or set up. No, unfortunately, we can't say that anymore. Quirk awakenings have been set up since, like, heck, arguably the joint training arc. Realistically, like, if you want to go way back when to then, that was the first time, because Midori had a quirk awakening. He awoke the rest of the quirks and sleeping within one for all. So that's possible. And plus, we've had numerous characters with numerous quirk awakenings, whether it be Bakugo's hysterical strength, his hysterical speed, or the quirk sweat exploding juice built up inside him. We've had other characters with that za push through them. Like we've seen it. So quirk awakenings like this are not entirely unprecedented. So I cannot say that this is a plot hole or nonsense or a booty pull anymore, because it isn't. This is an established part of the narrative. Do I think it's good? No, not at all. Sorry, I don't know. Once again, this is literally, I can't even tell you that it's bad on like a writing front. Obviously, if I have to remove all context for what quirks are, in their most basic and realistic form, quirks are a power system. You cannot have a power system that does not evolve in some way, shape, and or form. It just is not the case. You cannot have that. So I get why Hori introduced the concept of quirk awakenings, because otherwise characters like Bakugo would be power crept out of the narrative, like they already were. Or characters like Midoriya, hypothetically with everyone becoming Prime All Might level, would be power crept out of the narrative, so I understand why he had to introduce 6 quirks. Characters like, heck, even Prime All for One would be power crept out of the narrative, because of how powerful everyone is. Like, yeah, quirk awakenings are kind of just a necessity for the series to increase in scale, as all shonen manga are seemingly required to do after a while. So is it entirely wrong or backwards or booty meat or butt cheeks that this is falling apart the way it has? No, it's not, but I still don't like the concept. I like the idea that quirks were legit just biological mutations. The biological mutation to awaken another biological mutation within you on the verge of death, not my thing. It's just not my thing, not a fan of it. But we do get to see that with that, Compress is thinking about, what about my quirk awakening? When will I be brought back into the narrative? Never, Compress. You are worthless to begin with. However, we do get to see that Geten's like, well, you're up next. Want to tell me what you were talking about with those cops and heroes? Anything you want to talk about is okay with me. There's nothing to do here but waste time until the end of the war. So obviously that's setting up Compress is going to do something. What that thing is going to be, who knows? Maybe he did something already. Maybe they used his quirk for something, some compression thing. We'll see. Do I necessarily care? A little bit. You know, I did like Compress before his big reveal in the war arc. I know it's crazy to say I liked him before his big reveal, but like, yeah, I don't know. His reveal in the war arc, so like like you can go back and check that review. To this day I still don't care, and it's literally been like 2 years. But with that being the case, we do get to see, we cut back to not necessarily Gunga Mountain Villa, but we cut approximately 800 meters from Gunga Mountain Villa ruins, and we do get to see that it's getting hot in here. It's blazing up just a little tiny bit, if I do have to say so myself. And we do get to see that Endeavor is currently crawling away, or seemingly maybe like slightly fire boosting away from his crazy Daisy son. And I'll admit, I don't know what kind of earpiece he has, but I need me one of those. Like, if my headphones fall out my ears a little bit too hard from like 3 feet off the ground, because for some reason I'm like squatting down or something and they'll fall out, they'll break. Endeavor has been through multiple life and death battles and raising his body temperature to who knows how high, and those headphones still work? What? Give me one of those. What the heck? I need AirPods like that. You know what I'm talking about. Like, what? However, we do get to see, yeah, his arm is currently out of blaze. So he's, once again, back to no arm self. And he's like, he's going to explode? What? And we see that he is in fact being informed that it's not just the evacuation blocks, but Pixie Bob and the heroes that are dealing with Toga's clones are also in range. So when Dabi detonates, it's not going to take 1 or 2 or even 3 people. It's going to take everybody, like legitimately a whole lot of people. And notably, in this little information blurb, they don't even bring the fact that it could hypothetically reach the UA battlegrounds. Like, once again, there was brought up last chapter that Dabi is like perfectly positioned to cause as much damage as possible to everybody. And once again, I do believe if Dabi were to detonate, as they say he's going to, then he would not only like win the war for the villains, but he would win the war in spectacular fashion, because Midoriya can't regenerate and he's already feeling fatigued from gear shift. Meanwhile, Shigaraki can regenerate, and the only person that could shut Shigaraki down is currently taken who knows where by Kurogiri with Present Mic. So Shigaraki would get burned, Midoriya would get burned, and then Midoriya would be feeling extreme fatigue while Shigaraki just heals it off. It's like, oh, well, that was crazy. I guess that was Dabi. Anyway, let's keep fighting, Midoriya. So obviously Dabi detonating is a massive problem here, and we see Dabi dive in. And fun fact, I just finished recording the Dabi rewrite. Like literally right before I hopped on to record this, I finished recording the Dabi rewrite. I can tell you right now, let me tab onto this other Audacity tab. Before adding any extra stuff, before doing anything fancy, the Dabi rewrite is already 48 minutes long. That's how long it is already. That was, what, like 11 pages worth of writing. So that's 48 minutes long. That's gonna be a chunk of a video. So looking at Dabi. Looking at Dabi. Oh man. I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna do a better job than Hori. No matter what, no matter how many things I rewrite of his, no matter how many critiques I give, I will never be a fraction of the level of creator that Hori is. Don't let any of my critiques or any of my issues I have with the narrative ever delude you into letting me believe that I delude myself into thinking that I could be a better creator than Hori. I won't be a better artist. I won't be a better writer. I won't be a better creator. None of that. None of that. Hori's just too goated. Whether it be from his art to his character writing sometimes, to his story writing sometimes, to his world building sometimes. The peaks of Hori clear me by infinite degrees, infinities on infinities, and even the lows of Hori. The knocking boots under the same roof, that also clears me by degrees upon degrees, because he got that past his editors. So like, Hori's on a next level compared to me. However, still, when I look at characters like Dabi, I just see so much lost potential. And we see that Dabi has lost his good mind, as Endeavor realizes, no, the damage I took from fighting All For One is slowing me down. I don't think I can lure Dabi any further, or Toya any further away. And we see Toya, Dabi, whatever you want to call him, is just reduced to Dad. Look at me. Look. And he's literally like burnt to pieces. Like, I'm not even sure he has legs by the end of this chapter. I think he's literally just done. I don't think Brody has legs or anything like that. Like, bro is just absolutely annihilated. And we see he's lunging into Endeavor, and Endeavor, Daddy Dever, you know who it is, he is looking at Toya, and what does he see? He doesn't see the monster, the beast, the creature that's coming to consume him and destroy everything Endeavor hopes and loves, and the fact that his son is really not even his son anymore. He's just like a culmination of hatred and agony and angst formed into a gigantic blue fireball, essentially a meteor. He sees his baby boy, and he sees way back when, maybe, who knows, 15, 20 years ago at this point, he sees a young Toya saying, "Look at what I can do now," as Toya, with his hair already all white, meaning he's already burned away a lot of his resistance, swinging with a fist made of flame. And of course, in the modern day, this little fist of flame that's barely bigger than Toya's head is not that, but in reality, it is a massive, and I mean massive, fist of fire that Endeavor himself doesn't even take up like a tenth of a single knuckle of, like a single fist or a single finger of the fist of flame that this Dabi launches in the modern day is so devastating, so massive, that it consumes a massive chunk of Endeavor and devastates the entire area around it. And even then, once the fist actually impacts, it doesn't just leave a fist mark in the ground, it causes what seems like massive fire plumes and explosions all around it. Dabi, in this essentially death state, is so unbelievably powerful. And I gotta admit, before we get to the big topic of discussion, which I already mentioned, I already talked about a little bit in the Quirk Awakening, this makes absolutely no sense. I'm sorry, I can't even begin to justify this. Now let me tell you why. You mean to tell me that a Dabi, who by using like a single fire plume was like tugging at his scars and scratching and itching, you're telling me a Dabi who is probably not even using a fraction of the power that he's currently displaying right now, a Dabi that was literally doing barely anything before without like being like, ah, that hurts, ooh, that's burning away some of my body, oh, I can't do this much anymore, is able to throw out massive fire plumes and fly and exist. Like, he doesn't even have a lower half of a body anymore. Like, he's legit gone. How is he still alive? Like, really? Really? Like, I get it. I know a lot of people are saying that Dabi is just essentially a Nomu at this point. And maybe, you know, we don't know what happened when he was in comatose. Like, when we see All For One do what All For One did, come in and save Dabi, we don't know what happened within that time period. Maybe Dabi was turned into a Nomu, but he's like a high-functioning Nomu that doesn't know he's a Nomu. Kind of like Kurogiri, where it seemed like for the longest time that Kurogiri was his own independent character, but no, he was actually a Nomu. He was Shirakumo. So maybe that's why Dabi's able to do this, but I think I'm going to need an explicit mention of this. Maybe there was an explicit mention of it, and I just don't know. But even I've seen other people complaining about this, so I don't think there was an explicit mention of him just being a Nomu. So him being able to operate at this high of a level after literally destroying his body and not even really being a human being anymore, he has no eyes, no nose, no legs, he doesn't have a junk anymore. Like, you don't have to worry about knocking Boots under the same roof, because he can't even knock Boots anymore, because he doesn't have Boots anymore. Bro is literally just ash, but somehow he's producing this much firepower. I'm sorry, I can't buy it. I get it, it's for the spectacle. It's for the spectacle, it's for the cool factor of it, it's for all that, but still, I just can't buy it, bro. This makes, like, within the rules that Hori established with Dabi's quirk, and, like, you know, general human structure, this doesn't make any sense. And we even see Endeavor's, like, even in spite of that. Once again, this is why I love Endeavor, bro. Even in spite of the fact that his son is literally trying to execute him and really isn't his son anymore. He's not even, like, speaking coherent sentences. None of what he's saying makes sense. Endeavor's looking right at him. We see Endeavor try to grab his kid with his one remaining arm. He's like, put out your flames, Toya, please. And we see that Dabi's like, look. And we see that Endeavor's like, I don't want you to die. And we see that Dabi just, once again, he's lost. Like, the sauce is not, it doesn't even apply anymore. He's not lost in the sauce, he's just lost. Bro is through the moon. He's in another dimension right now. He's not lost in the sauce, as he says, Natsu kun wanna play. I'm sorry, I have no idea how to, like, replicate the voice of a man who shouldn't even have a voice box anymore, because his jaw is literally being held on by threads. But with that being the case, we see that Endeavor is actually starting to lose consciousness. The heat that Dabi's producing on what should not even his deathbed, his afterlife bed, is so much that it's burning even Endeavor. And Endeavor straight up asks the question that I'm asking Hori, how is he even still alive? Like, how is bro breathing? How does he exist? He shouldn't. Like, long story short, he shouldn't. I'm sorry, there's no way. Like, once again, unless it's revealed that, oh, for one, yeah, this was all part of my plan. You see, I actually secretly made Dabi a Nomu at that time. I mean, he just didn't know, because he was a high-functioning Nomu, something that only had existed one other time before, and was very clear and blatant. But you see, he doesn't actually know that, because blah, blah, blah. Like, unless we get something like that, which I guess I'll take at this point, because any explanation would be nice. Even Endeavor doesn't know how he's alive, because he shouldn't be. And Hori knows he shouldn't be, and Hori's editors know he shouldn't be, and I think even the deepest, most down bad Dabi fan knows he should not be alive right now. But, you know, we gotta have a story, and you can't have a story without a villain, so we're gonna have Dabi here. And we see that Endeavor is holding Toya, once again with his only one good arm, and we see that Endeavor sees something within the phosphor that's blazing across Toya's chest. He notices that Toya is also missing an arm, the same arm that he's missing, which is a nice little touch. I do like that. And also the fact that, once again, we're talking about Quirk Awakenings, where it's mentioned, when someone has a near-death experience, it may cause their quirk to awaken. Or, on the other hand, some people manifest what could be called hysterical strength. However, this is not the same as an awakening. This power only blooms when someone is on the verge of death. And we see that within the chest of Dabi, within this blazing corpse, somehow, some way, Rei's quirk has manifested. And okay, let's tackle the main thing. One, like I said before, I do not think this counts as like a nonsense or a booty pull or Hori ripping it out his cheeks. Like, I don't think so. Regardless, Quirk Awakenings have been set up for a while now, and even Quirk Awakenings that contradict each other or Quirk Awakenings that aren't similar have been established. We see that with All for One. We see that with One for All. Those quirks can awaken, and they can awaken multiple different types of quirks and bring new levels of power and potential out of them. Plus, Toya is, in fact, Rei's kid. It makes sense. The ice potential literally was set up with the fact that he does have Rei's constitution. His body was meant to have an ice quirk. If anything, the awakening should be happening in reverse. He should have had the ice quirk and then gotten the fire quirk. So this is not like nonsense on that level. At least to me. The real nonsense behind this is the fact that he's awakening it and actually able to manifest ice when he's so hot that he's burning Endeavor. And like, he doesn't even have like a body left. Like, bro literally only has an arm, a torso, and what barely remains of a head. Shoutouts to his hair and teeth though. His hair and teeth must be super fire resistant because they haven't burned away, but his very flesh has. But with that being the case, that's my nonsense thing. The other thing, I've seen a lot of people saying that, oh, wow, this makes Endeavor an even worse character, because if he had just stayed with Toya, Toya would have eventually mentioned his quirk, or manifested his quirk. I don't know if we read the same chapter, but this literally says that Toya only awakened this because he's literally on the verge of death. Like, he's about to explode in like a minute and a half. Like, bro literally is about to die. So unless y'all wanted Endeavor to keep beating Toya as a child so badly that he was pushed to near death and awakened in Ice Quirk, I don't think Toya would have awakened this in any other timeline. He literally needed to be about to die to awaken Rei's Quirk. So no, Toya was never going to be the perfect child that Endeavor wanted. Shoto always was. I'm sorry, Toya fans. I know you're looking to make Endeavor out to be even a worse person, but trust me, you don't have to do that. He's already bad enough as an individual, so you don't need to do that. And it also, the argument just doesn't make sense. Toya never would have been perfect unless he literally was about to die to Endeavor. So, that's it. Like, I don't... I just don't know. Like, I still have no prop. Like, it's weird. I don't have like real emotions about this because I don't care about Toya. I'll be real. Like, I'll be completely honest with you. Canon Toya lost all my interest the moment he said he didn't care about Natsuo at all. The moment he absolutely disregarded the fact that he was nearly responsible for his baby brother who did absolutely nothing wrong to him but exists almost perishing to Ending's hands, I was like, oh yeah, Toya's not an interesting character to me anymore. So I lost interest way back then. So him getting a Quirk Awakening, I just find it like, whatever. It doesn't strike any extreme emotion in me one way or the other. I've like completely disinvested myself from this character at this point, which is sad. I want to be more invested in Toya, but I think it's like a physical impossibility at this point. And we do get to see that Endeavor, he begins the flashback after seeing all he put Rei through, all he put Toya through, all he put his family through, all the journey that he's come to this point where he sacrificed his own arm. He's like, you know what? I'll win today and keep my eyes on Toya. And we see in another world, well, not necessarily another world, in a world where Toya has more of his body parts, we see the two burning together, looking at each other eye to eye. Toya with a smile on his face and Endeavor with a look of realization. And we see in this dream world of Endeavors, he says, all of this is my responsibility. I thought I had begun to bear the burden, and had to stay alive to make amends for what I've done. But you've been looking at me all these years, and I turned my eyes away from you. I have to make amends to you, too. That's what you were doing, but whatever. A dream. I have a dream I keep having. A family with everyone but me. I won't let you die alone, but I won't let you drag anyone else into this either. And he literally hugs literally, once again, you can see Toya's legs are gone. His arm is gone. All he has is his one arm that's pressing against Endeavor's stomach. That's it. And Endeavor hugs his son close. Really the half of his son that he has left. Really, like, be real with you, the third of his son he has left. And he begins to fly into the sky. We won't make it far enough away if we stay on the ground. So I'll make use of Toya's firepower to propel us upwards. And we see Toya is still burning, still screaming. Notably, he's not actually screaming anymore. He's not saying anything. Though we do get to see, since he's releasing so much heat and Endeavor is already overheated, he finds himself losing consciousness. And we see somehow, someway, the real stupidest part of this chapter. Well, no, the knocking boots into the same roof is stupider. But the real stupidest part of this chapter, somehow, someway, Himura blood runs thick, and Rei Himura shows up to begin to cool down Dabi and Endeavor. And we see that we cut back to the final panel from a long time ago. You're guilty too, Mom. This evoked a strong reaction. This evoked a strong reaction out of me. Number one. How on this good green earth did Rei catch them? How? Like, I'm not sure. I get that the both are, like, overheating and probably not going as fast as they could, but they are literally like a rocket flying into the air. You mean to tell me off-panel, like, Rei built a mountain of ice, even though we've never seen her use her quirk to that level? She built a literal mountain of ice to somehow reach them in time and catch up to them? One, unbelievably stupid. Two, this is why, what's his name, Gunhead told them to go up to the top level, to go onto the ground. So we can get a stupid moment like this. I'm sorry. Dumb bubble gum. Like, I'm sorry. There's no defending that in my mind. Number three, she should be atomized. Like, don't get me wrong. She should be absolutely atomized. 4, what's the point of having Dabi awaken his quirk if you're just gonna have Rei show up anyway? What's the point? Like, why even bother with that plot point at this point? There's no reason to have Rei's gonna show up anyway. 5, I don't know, I just think it's dumb. Like, overall, this chapter, it it added nothing of the only interesting point in this chapter that I really appreciate is Endeavor's, like, self-doubt and giving into the fact that he's going to save everyone at the cost of his own life. I like that. And I like the fact that the long-held theory that Getten and Rei were related is confirmed. But the whole Alabama stuff, Dabi awakening his quirk for absolutely no reason, Dabi being able to exist when he's literally only half a body at this point, the continued existence of just this like this pity party for Endeavor when he realistically, like, this is no longer his fault at this point, and Rei magically showing up. Like, I get it. A lot of people saying Hori cooked this week, this is fantastic, Hori's top of the line, best new this is booty meat. Like, I'm sorry, I can't, like, the chapter gets a 6 out of 10 for me. The art is gorgeous, I love Endeavor, but that's the only praise I can really give the chapter. However, that's what I think. Please, what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave Ice Flame in the comment section down below. Ice Flame, ICEFLAME, Ice Flame down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You support as low as $1 down month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dagger the Pencil, writing off.